I've always been interested in history and culture, and some of this can probably be attributed to being raised in a famous small town in the USA. So the tower here on Culp's Hill is probably one of the best places to get a view of the surrounding area, the town, the battlefield, everything that is Gettysburg. You can pretty much see it from up here. Heck, I can even see my house. It's right over there where I grew up. Welcome to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, site of the most important battle of the Civil War in the United States. Hey everyone, good morning. Today I'm actually here in the town that I grew up in. I spent my entire youth here from 2 to 18. It's where I went to school, I went to church, I played sports and made a lot of friends. And I actually haven't been back in over 6 years, so I feel like it's long overdue for me to come back and see what it looks like, see if it's changed at all or see if it's still the same. I do still have family here, so I've definitely got a reason to visit. And I'm looking forward to spending the next 24 hours here. One of the things that I always loved about growing up here was actually that the town is so small you can walk pretty much everywhere. So even as like a 7 and 8-year-old, my parents would just send us to school together with my other siblings and we would just walk together. One thing this town definitely has a lot of is statues of Abraham Lincoln, just like the one behind me here in front of the main library. It was a bit shocking to see how little this area has actually changed. Sure, there's a few new restaurants, even a Starbucks, but many of the streets look exactly as I remember them from 20 years ago. I've just made my way down here to the town square, or the center of town. I always thought it was kind of funny they call it a square because it is just a roundabout, so it's a circle. But right behind me is another one of those statues of Lincoln that I was talking about earlier. I don't know how many there are probably like 10 of them here in the town, but that's also because Abraham Lincoln, the President of the United States, came here and gave his famous speech right after the Civil War. Something else here on the square that means quite a bit to me is the hotel right here, the Gettysburg Hotel. And that's because I actually worked there for about 6 years while I was in college. And I have a lot of great memories and met some amazing people. A trip to Gettysburg is not complete without a stop at the Lincoln Diner, where I was a regular with the late night crowd that wandered in after the bars had closed. I was a bit shocked to find out they're no longer open 24/7. So for someone growing up here in this town, I feel like there's basically 3 different parts of it. The first is as a local, as a resident, as a kid growing up here and going to school. Another side of the town is Gettysburg College, and that's where all the college students come and go to school. And then the third part of the town is actually what most tourists know, and that is the National Military Park, or as we call it, just the battlefield. And that is where one of the most famous battles in U.S. history happened, and that's what really draws people here to Gettysburg. It was actually 1863, July 1st through 3rd, and it was this incredibly bloody battle, but it was the turning point for the American Civil War and kept the nation together. With the college on summer break, it was easy to stroll around the small campus. Of course, I never attended, but I did use the library and make a few friends, even attending events at one of the frat houses on Carlisle Street. I am just here right now on the campus of Gettysburg College, and this is a very integral part of the town itself, and definitely something you should check out if you're visiting. Growing up, it was very nice to have the college here because you get all the students, and it kind of adds to the population, honestly, of the town. Something that I think is really interesting is my perspective on the battlefield out here. I think it's vastly different from what a tourist would come here for and experience, because usually they come and they see the statues, they read all the monuments and markers to understand the history, and that's all good. But for me, this was really a place where I would come out and I would go running every day, or staying fit and active, because there's great places for trail walking, for hiking, jogging, and you see a lot of locals out here doing that because that's just, part of the culture of living in this town. I had another funny experience growing up thinking that everywhere I went should have statues and monuments like this, because there are hundreds of them here in the town. And yeah, I was actually kind of disappointed when I realized a lot of places don't have this many statues. With more than 1,300 monuments in the National Military Park, there are plaques and markers to remember many of those who fought here. If you want to see the biggest, head over to Cemetery Ridge. You can't miss the massive Pennsylvania State Memorial. Be sure to take the stairs to the top for an impressive view of the surrounding fields that were the site for a major defeat of the Confederate Army. More than 50,000 soldiers died in the 3 days of fighting here. A place that I would highly recommend coming and checking out here while you're in Gettysburg is the National Cemetery. And this is actually the spot where Lincoln gave his Gettysburg Address. Now, in modern historical understandings, it's probably actually further over that way in a different cemetery right next to this one. But it's really interesting to think that this is where Lincoln came and gave that speech that everyone remembers, everyone learns in civics class here in the United States. 7 years ago, our forefathers brought forth, yada, yada, yada. So you've probably heard it many times if you grew up here. I think one of the reasons this spot is so important to visit is to see the after effects and the aftermath of war, because this is what it really is. It's killing and dying. All these stones actually just have numbers because these are unknowns that died during the conflict. And it's just a very sobering thing to see and realize and understand that this is why we should never go to war, or it should be a last resort at all costs. Peace is such an important thing. And sitting here, just kind of meditating on that, it's a very powerful thing, actually. And the park isn't that big, so you just take your time, walk around. I think it's just one loop here with some monuments, and there are some burial plots with known people that have died. But it's just a reminder to us all about life and about how we should live. Well, right behind me is one of the most famous monuments here on the battlefield and most popular to visit, and that is the Eternal Peace Light, which the flame supposedly never goes out, but I've seen it go out. All right, so I'm finally back after walking around town for a while this morning, and I just have a lot of thoughts about it. And I think that's because I grew up here. It was a place that I called home in my youth and as a child. Would I still call home now? That's a really difficult question to answer because honestly, I don't have a lot of friends that I keep in touch with here. And aside from my parents who do still live in the area, there's not a whole lot drawing me back, which is probably why I haven't come back in a long time. Will I return anytime soon? And the answer, again, very complicated. As long as I have family here, I do want to come back. But at the same time, I don't feel the need to run back here, especially since it is kind of a tourist town and it can get quite busy. I know today seemed, pretty laid back, but that's also because it's a Tuesday and I went out at 6 o'clock in the morning to look around. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me today on this little walk down memory lane. I hope you also kind of got something out of this and got to see what life looks like here in a tourist town. Stay safe and healthy out there, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. Thanks for joining me today. Life's a journey meant to be shared. Remember to always travel with an open heart and an open mind. Enjoy the ride and keep your eyes on the horizon for the next adventure. I'll see you out there.